What if seeking isn't about finding answers, but growing into the silence they leave behind? At some point, the questions fall away, and what's left is the light we've been trying to name. This is Seekers and Finders. Today, we're stepping into the quiet places beneath identity, the places that don't ask us to improve, only to notice. Our guest, Nancy Bennett, has walked the long arc from a life shaped by story to a life shaped by presence. And in her unfolding, there's something universal, a reminder that what we're searching for may already be the one who's listening. Her book, Opening to the Mystery, Unfolding from a Limited Self, speaks directly to this gentle turning inward. Let's begin.
And we're on. Well, today's going to be great. I'll tell you why, because we're going to be interviewing a real good friend of mine. Her name is Nancy Bennett. She wrote a great book. I read it not too long ago, and I've got a lot of notes here. Opening to the Mystery, Unfolding from a Limited Self, Nancy D. Bennett. It's on Amazon. I ordered it there. I got a lot of notes. Nancy and I met Nancy through the Peter Brown. He's a non-dual American non-dual teacher. We'll get more to him about him later as we talk about Nancy's journey, because I met Nancy through the Peter Brown group, and so we have a lot of things in common. I have an idea how to kick off this presentation, unless Nancy, unless you want to say something. I have a way of kicking off the presentation.
Oh, that's great. I just would like also for the viewers to be aware of my website that also describes my book and people's comments on it, so they can get a flavor of the book itself.
So here's where I want to start, because you mentioned your website, you mentioned your book, and you got some really good reviews. In fact, I wrote one of them. If you go out to Amazon, you can read. Hey, go out to Amazon and read my review. But anyway, this is not me. I just want to read two comments that other people mentioned about your book. Okay, so here's what one reader said. It took me back. This is referring to your book, of course. It took me back to my early days when it felt like everyone was searching for meaning, but many also seemed to give up at a certain point. What comes through in your book is that you did not stop looking and questioning. Okay, that was one comment. There was another one that was very similar to that. Another reader said, "Your persistence is unshakable. At different times, I felt like there were so many points at which I could have not been able to keep at it the way you could and did." So I think this is one of the qualities, the great qualities that comes through in this book on your spiritual journey. You had many ups and downs, and like it's like the old adage, two steps forward, one step back. I mean, the spiritual search is challenging, and you had so many challenges, but like the reviewers said, you persisted, you didn't quit. And Stefan and I go back a long way, because we used to, we had the same guru, we were in the same spiritual cult. We know many seekers, and I know many seekers in my life. And some, unfortunately, we know, kind of like dropped out. It's like, okay, it's too much. Yeah. So I had a bad experience with the guru. So that's it for that thing. But and a lot of people do that. But other people, like Stefan, like me, like you, and like other people, no matter what challenges we face or what obstacles we meet, push through. And this is a classic. This was a classic journey of yours. It reminded me of Joseph Campbell's The Hero with a Thousand Faces, which I think you allude to in this book, don't you? Because that was
In the author's note, I think it is.
yeah. So your journey was quite dramatic, interesting. So I believe you started out with you early on. You discovered the Gurdjieff work. Is that was that kind of like the beginning of your real, plunge into the spiritual life?
That was the plunge. It was freezing cold water, and I was 21. And it opens in the prologue where I'm in this vineyard, 21, first day at this Gurdjieff retreat. And I just want to say all hell breaks loose. Because back in the 70s when this was, their approach was kind of like an encounter group. And I don't know if people today know what that is.
I remember that from the 70s. We went to encounter groups right after we left. I remember after I left the Guru, I went out there was something called the New Age movement was really flourishing. And so
That's right.
encounter groups were really a big part of that. So I know what you're talking about. It's very confrontational, right?
Yeah, tear each other's faces off.
So so the Gurdjieff movement was involved largely with learning certain movements. Was it like the Sufi the Sufi
Dances.
dances? That's
Yeah.
what like Sufi dances,
I
yeah.
mean, it's really not but that's the closest you can come
I
to.
think they're called
this.
zikr. Is it called zikr? Anyway, the whirling
Well, the
dervish.
zikr is different than the movements, and that came later. But what really helped me learn how to focus attention and be present in the moment was trying to master these incredible movement features in this class with a group of people in my particular group. And that went on for, a couple of years. And it really, for me, it was really like peeling layers off, because, like most of us, we're kind of programmed to be judgmental, critical. Oh, I'm doing a bad job, just all the monkey mind chatter that will just completely throw anyone off course for trying to be present in a way that is useful.
Right. And I commend you because I remember one of my explorations after I left the Indian Guru in the 70s was exploring Gurdjieff and the Guru. But after reading a number of books about it, it just what was called the work, right? Gurdjieff work seemed so complicated and involved. I said I could never possibly, because I read so many accounts, and so you in your experience that it was just so complicated, right? I mean, some of these movies you have to stop in the middle of something. Wasn't it? Did they have
Well,
to
you bring up a really good point, because from what I'm hearing, you were talking about the I'm not using the right word, the ideology, the Gurdjieff ideology or cosmology,
right?
which is very far afield from the way we're normally thinking. But I was talking about the movements, which are, you do in a group, and it's a physical,
No, I
it's a
know that. But I was referring, yeah, the cosmology was unfathomable. But no, I meant the movements were so complicated because didn't you have to you stop in the middle of something and
right. Yeah.
it's very
It
difficult.
really required full attention, full presence.
Yeah, full presence. That was the thing. So you stayed with the Gurdjieff work If I can recall from reading the book, you stayed with the Gurdjieff work for many, many years until I think your next discovery was nature. Was it nature?
Yeah, that's right. A lot transpired. We're crunching probably, I
Yeah,
don't know, 10 or 20 years.
right. You started out in the
Um,
70s. Okay, so that gives us a little,
yeah, so by
knowledge.
2000, the turn of the century,
Right.
um, you know, a variety of things transpired, and I left a job as a family therapist that I'd been at for 7 years, and I left my quote unquote spiritual Gurdjieff group at the same time. And then nature became my teacher. I would be solo camping. I would be learning how to pay attention to intuition, uh, accessing more of my feelings, and kind of living from a place of not knowing, which was, very different for me because was a kind, I've always been kind of uh, not an isolated person, but kind of on my own. And so I was, like in my head trying to figure things out. And that gave way gradually to simply not knowing, tuning into synchronicity, which isn't really a thing. It's a felt presence that we actually are, but we're not in tune with it. And so that time in nature and being with not knowing and tuning into what's already here present was, it was a big shift. But nature was such a beautiful teacher, as people already know, because people know that when they are in nature, whatever they have been experiencing is problematic or this or that or the other thing, somehow it just kind of washes away in the naturalness of nature's energy.
Nancy, before you came to Gurdjieff, did you have an epiphany, a wake up moment, or was it just a curiosity about spirituality?
Well, there wasn't a moment. My early life just entailed a lot of self-loathing, and and I fell upon the Gurdjieff work totally by the mystery. I mean, I was visiting a friend in San Francisco. I left Boston for a vacation to San Francisco, and I described that visit. I mean, 2 hours off the plane, and I was in a Gurdjieff open meeting, which I had no idea where I was going, what it was. He just said, "You have to find your own way to this meeting. Here's the key to my apartment. See you at the meeting. Can't go with you." He was already on his way there. And it was just so weird, like, you know, and that was kind of my introduction to the Gurdjieff work.
So would you call it synchronicity? I mean, you kind of like was
Absolutely.
drawn there.
It was complete. And in fact, my entire book really celebrates synchronicity even before I knew what synchronicity was. And that's been the unfolding of my life. And it requires just paying attention. When we're always in our head, we miss the synchronicity that's right here. Because, this little monkey mind is always going.
And it for me, it sounds like the loathing part of your life was like almost like a caustic activation to make this thing come alive, like
Wow,
lighting a fire.
that is beautifully put. A caustic activation. That is so spot on. And so, in the book I describe my childhood, the physical abuse experiences that kind of, opened up the self-loathing. And and all the choices that I made that were, kind of, I don't know, I don't even want to put a word on it. But it was a perfect setup for me to take a trip, like 2 weeks to San Francisco at 21, and to then suddenly, be thrust into this Gurdjieff open meeting that itself was a crazy experience.
So it sounds like after Gary read those two comments that people made about your book, that there's a real similarity going on here for people that had similar kinds of experiences that really should read your book, because they're probably just going to feel their life within your story.
I feel really fortunate. Friends who, I have friends on Facebook who've read the book, and they've said just that, how it brought them back to their own childhoods. They say they felt things that they had completely forgotten about. So that was music to my ears, because for me, writing the book was not about the achievement at all. It really is to put my experience out there, because I feel like I had been given so much towards the end of my life after I found some teachers that really opened my mind and my heart, and to see reality more as it is rather than the way we've been programmed to see it, that I just felt like I really want to give back to people a new experience that they can discover within themselves.
That's why the expression, it opened my eyes, kind of works very well. Thank you for that.
Well, thank you for that question, because that really
Well,
nailed it.
yeah, that was good. And like many readers, the book brought me back to self-loathing. I mean, it brought me right back to self-loathing because listen, if I don't care who you are, if you're out there, especially I think this is true with spiritual seekers, especially.
Yes.
There's a lot of self-loathing going on somewhere in your life. Because why else would you become a spiritual seeker? In other words, you're trying to like resolve these very fundamental seemingly discrepancies in seemingly in your character. But no, I like
I
that.
want to just jump in, because that is really so perfect. Um, I really thought initially my spiritual journey was about self-improvement. I went to the Gurdjieff work and doing movements. I really initially thought that was about self-improvement. I learned otherwise.
No, and that's a key point. And one of the things that I have earmarked in the book to bring up, because that is a key to me, we're going to get there, but that is a key point in your journey. We'll get there where you realized, hey, after all these years, it's not about self-improvement. Now, this is a key message for like a whole load of spiritual seekers, because I would say, based on, listen, I've been involved in this. We go back to like, Stephen and I, 1970 something. I've been doing this stuff for 60 years, and I can say the vast majority of spiritual seekers I have run into in the course of my journey, for them, what it's about is self-improvement, having a better self. You came to the
That's right.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But I have a synchronicity for you. How about this? You were talking about, once you came to a certain point, you kind of you realized it was about not about knowing, it's about not knowing. So as I was reading your book, I got to a point where I said like, oh, I'm going to be interviewing. I got to interview. We have to have Nancy on a podcast. So I said I better underline some things like that we can that popped out at me when I was reading your book. And so well, here's the first one. Here's the first one. This is at the end of your Gurdjieff involvement, and then you said, I faced the painful truth. This is what you're saying. The beliefs about who I thought I was were simply imaginary. With this openness, how do I uh, sustain this new feeling of not knowing amid the old habits and complacency? I was determined to be present to reality, embracing what is here and now. I wanted a real life. That was a significant part of your journey. I felt because that popped right out at me. You went from like trying to figure the whole thing out. I can figure this whole thing out to like, no, this is all imaginary stuff. And you started to embrace not knowing, which was later enhanced by your experiences in nature.
Yeah, that sounded like it was coming on the heels of uh, a movements intensive in Amsterdam.
I think it was Paris. You were with Madame C.
Yeah,
Paris.
Amsterdam.
Madame C was one of Gurdjieff's direct disciples. She was one of
Right.
the most famous proponents of the movements. I may have been in Amsterdam, may have been in Paris, but that's came after that because she kept challenging you. She kept saying, too complicated because you had questions. You said too complicated, too complicated. And then, you came to this realization after, in fact, the beginning of it is you're referring to your encounter with Madame C. Days earlier, preoccupied with creating a favorable impression, you were trying to impress Madame C, but she saw through it. I couldn't see beyond the facade I'd built. But after these 3 tumultuous days, that's when you had you faced the painful truth that the beliefs thought I had about who I was simply imaginary. So to me, this really kicks off the journey because now you're
That's right.
comfortable with not knowing. You're not trying to figure it out anymore. Not trying to get your mind around some inconceivable
It's
reality.
really about for me, it was really about putting myself in challenging situations that I didn't know the outcome, situations that were unfamiliar, uh, that will kind of throw you off balance. And most people, including myself earlier on, just wanted to be comfortable. And it
Yes.
really, for me, was about learning how to be with discomfort of not knowing. So the Gurdjieff work and going to those work weeks was the first part. And then when I left the groups, going into nature, going camping without a reservation, without a buddy, just I could end up in just the overflow area of the campground because there's no planning ahead of it.
No, and that's one of the other things that stuck out from stuck popped out at me while reading the book was that you put yourself purposefully, intentionally in these uncomfortable situations, like the campground situation, where once you went there, you showed up, and then all of a sudden somebody had canceled. The thing was too full, and you're about to drive in. Said, no, somebody just canceled, and you had the ideal place. Talk about synchronicities and the way things happen.
Yeah.
Put yourself out there, and I'm reminded of a Joseph Campbell quote. I think he was quoting Goethe, but whatever. It's like when you set your intention, if you're firm enough and you set your intention, the whole universe like shifts to support that. So this really came out in the book.
And that is not hyperbole. That is my actual experience. And it can be in the subtlest ways that you start to notice that everything just comes together in a miraculous way. And it could be just a bunch of subtle little things, but it just kind of does something for the heart.
It does, and like so, somebody hearing about the thing with the camp, well, one of the instances in the campground where you show up, oh, what'd you come for? The place has been booked for weeks and weeks, and they said, oh, wait, hold on, oh, somebody just called, oh, you know,
No, I had to spend the night in the overflow because
overflow.
there
Okay.
was nothing available. And then he comes and wakes me up like early, early the next morning. I thought I was dreaming.
But that's the type of things that happen, even though to the outer eyes, like, oh, it's no big deal. But no, but they happen so often enough that
Right.
it shows you there's support out there, for you in the by the universe, in the universe, whatever.
And that is what I try to highlight in my book. All of the various synchronicities with, some real detail, because we don't give it enough attention. We don't either believe it, or we don't think it's going to happen, or, so by my detailing these, it really shows how real it can be.
Very real.
Once we learn how, to just be more present.
We're like pack animals. We're born and we're kind of like raw. And as we go through life, we keep packing this stuff all over us till it becomes so wide we can't feel or hear anything anymore. But deep underneath that pack, there's this natural simplicity that is just having this really great yearning to have the cracks start to come on these packs and have them drop off. And, people
I'm really glad that you brought that up, because that's exactly, in the book, I talk about my Rolfing treatment, and that's exactly between the movements, which is, taking off the packing, unpacking the packing, and the movements, and also the Rolfing. I very intimately describe how all these ways that I needed to present myself, or thought I was, the Rolfing experiences were just profound. Because then you come to a place where you don't know who you are, and it's okay.
Just for people who might not know, it was a big thing. It was very big in the 70s. It's a body work. Describe what Rolfing for people who don't know it.
Well, I describe it better in the book than I can do it now.
It's body work.
That's right.
They touch you and all, and to release whatever traumas.
That's what I wanted to get at. There's a lot of trauma held in the body,
right,
and it affects the nervous system, and we're constantly protecting ourselves unconsciously because of the trauma. So the trauma is locked in the body, and we're just responding to our life from the trauma, and we're not aware of it. And so, no matter how spiritual you are and how long you want to meditate, I don't know. I mean, I'm a big proponent of body work integration, so that, those outer layers can just melt off.
Because we build up an armor, right? An armor
right.
that
right.
you have to break through.
And the armor is what I met life with. I'll just say that I don't think that anything could really surpass Rolfing. It's a very intense experience. And when I would leave a session, I would just have to go straight home and go to bed, because it felt like my entire persona was just kind of pulled apart.
Your next big realization or epiphany was this, and this is in the chapter 41. Old ideas shaken, and here's maybe one of the major things you got from the Gurdjieff work, because you say right here, the Gurdjieff work is meant to assist in becoming who you truly are, not to improve who you think you are or should be. So here you discover, I think the great thing, and it was great in my own journey to discover finally at some point, it's not about self-improvement. It's not about becoming a better self. However you want to, describe that, or whatever that may mean to you. In fact, it's the very opposite. And as you say here, the work is meant to assist you in becoming who you truly are, which is not a better self. So that really popped out at me, because that's a major point in the spiritual journey for I would hope every spiritual seeker. Now, one of your teachers, one of your trainers was a woman named Carol. Carol pointed out that the work emphasizes personal transformation in the here and now. The purpose of my life focused on fixing myself. That's self-improvement. Fixing yourself now seemed questionable. So you're, to me, in this journey now, you've taken a major step, because now you're no longer trying to become a better self. Oh, I don't want to be angry anymore. I don't want to be this. I want to be this. Blah, blah, blah. Rather than just forgetting about all that stuff, and just realizing who you are in the here and now, which is the only place you can do it. Oh, so now you've discovered nature. You're in the woods. You're camping. With the journal on you're in a campground here on page 294. With journal on my lap, I can barely make out the words I'm writing, the firelight fading as darkness deepens. After decades, my time with all the groups and work weeks has come to an end. Nature, okay, so we're getting to the point where nature has become my new teacher and sweet companion. Finally, alone and not lonely. That's what popped out at me. You're alone, but not lonely. I contemplate typing this entry into my word processor, but then wonder, who would I share this with? Who would be interested?
Yeah, that really touches my heart. I remember that moment. Who would be interested?
That's a great moment.
So in that moment, I had been sitting at the fire. I probably described it, in the previous paragraphs, because in my book, I'm very keen on creating the environment for the reader so that they can be right with me. And, I'm just not calling it stillness. I'm just not putting labels on things. I'm trying to uh, express the experience directly.
Is this the moment to start talking about Peter Brown and his teaching? I don't know if that's...
Well, we're getting there. We are getting there, because this is what Peter Brown is all about, and that comes through in the book, is direct experiencing without the labels. Because, as Nancy pointed out, the labels get in the way, because we think, oh, look, I'm meditating. Oh, look, I'm this, I'm silent, or this, as opposed to just the experience itself, without any labeling, without any, this is what this is and that is what that is. So we're going to get to that, because that is one of the main messages of the book. And from reading the book, I can say, yeah, Nancy expresses it beautifully, because what she's describing, again, are not categories of experience, but experience itself, which is raw and without labels. Like what's going on right now? Do we need a label for this? No, it's just direct experience. But we're going to get into that shortly. But before we get there, we have another key moment I want to get to. Are you ready? Are you
Okay.
ready for another key moment? Because there were, in this book, there are many key moments. So we went from, so one realization was simply this, that the ideas, I had about myself were all imaginary. And so then you learned to be comfortable with not knowing. I don't know. And then we went from there to the realization, via the Gurdjieff work, that it's not about self-improvement, guys. Okay, it's about realizing who you truly are. Now, in 2009, you meet someone who is very influential in your life. I love this woman. Her name was Corinne, right? And you
Oh, can I just jump in just for a
jump
moment?
in, yeah, sure.
Yeah, because just before I met Corinne, a few years was the constellation work. That was during the time, first was nature, several years of nature as my teacher, then the constellation work, which was another 7 years, which helped affirm and support no non-labeling, non-conceptualizing, not knowing. being with the present moment with no agenda and not trying to fix things. So it seems it's kind of like sequential in a way, even though, experience unfolds with no direction. It seems kind of sequential, but they unfold onto each other. There's no special separate person here trying to improve to, I don't know what's happening. All there is this. It all just kind of unfolds so beautifully and supports each other. And that in itself is a synchronicity. So the constellation work not only helped me with the not knowing, but it also helped see my intergenerational trauma in a whole new light, which was not intellectual. It was also experiential. And it really began to unfold my healing with my mother.
Because that was a big thing in your life, your early years with your mother, which proved to be very traumatic. And so the constellation work, okay, just for people who are not familiar with it, I wasn't that familiar with it, but it's like family relationships, and goes back like generations.
It's a phenomenological inquiry, a phenomenological experiential inquiry. That's all I can say about it. You'll have to read the book.
Yeah, no, and there's a lot in here, a lot in this book about constellation work, which was really new to me because I was not familiar with that at all. So that was good. Are you ready to go to Corinne?
Sure.
I love this because I don't know who this woman was, but she was great. So you ran into this woman through one of your groups or whatever. Her name was Corinne.
No. See, again, this is another synchronicity. And I'm not going to go into it, but I met her in the most astonishing, unexpected way. And I'm just going to leave it there. She wasn't in a group. We came together in the most synchronistic way for her to begin to introduce something totally beyond my understanding and changing my life.
Okay, read the book.
Again, synchronicity.
Yeah, if you want to find out about synchronicities, read the book and read how you came into contact with Corinne, because now you trigger my memory and say, oh yeah, my God, that was out of the blue. Yeah, right. Okay. Anyway, so this woman comes into your life. Her name is Corinne, and during one of our beach walks, as waves lapped against the shore, her comment, Corinne, on spiritual growth stopped me in my tracks. Efforting is not necessary. Boom. Okay. Boom. Efforting is not necessary. Oh, spiritual seekers all over, millions of spiritual seekers. What are they doing? Efforting. You're trying this. I'm trying to get to the higher level. I'm trying to go deeper. I'm trying this, that. And here, this stops you in your track because we all came up through that whole thing. You got to
That's
keep
right.
got to keep at it. You got to right. You got to strive. Don't stop. And here she's stopping you in your tracks. As like efforting is not necessary. What? That was a key moment. That was a key moment. Okay, and so you go on to say, I hadn't heard that one before. Neither had I up until for a long time. But I understood her to mean that spiritual development did not require effort. This goes against the whole grain of a lot of teaching.
That's right.
That contradicted everything I'd learned from the Gurdjieff system, which emphasized effort, and really a lot of effort in the Gurdjieff work, at the heart of the inner work. Even after she explained it, it didn't jibe with my belief system. So this is a key point because again, like the pack animal thing, as spiritual seekers, we're taught like, oh no, you gotta meditate 8 hours a day, or you gotta do this, you gotta do this, you gotta eat this or not eat this. You got to all these striving, efforting things, and here, so our belief system is like, strive and attain, strive and attain. And here,
That's right.
and
It's
this,
programmed.
and this is upending that whole thing. And she's saying, no, in fact, it goes on to say that like, efforting is the very thing that's an obstacle.
That's right.
It's not only not helping you, it's an obstacle. Okay. I thought Corinne's view on efforting was mistaken because it went against the grain. However, our conversations,
Not only the grain, my belief system, that was key. It went against my belief system.
that's
I
it.
didn't realize it was a belief system.
That's it. The belief system is the real barrier because it blocks so many things. However, our conversations led me to confront my deep-seated belief. There you go. That effort was essential for spiritual growth. I mean, that's a common belief. Okay. Let me just read one more thing from Corinne. This belief reflects duality, Corinne explained. Thought creates separation of me and my experience rather than recognizing one seamless whole. We seek to achieve something we already are, but don't recognize. What we are looking for is already present, but not acknowledged. Well, that's it in a nutshell, and that's Peter Brown's thing in a nutshell. I mean, was Corinne connected with Peter?
She was the one who introduced me after this situation. We're just walking, we were probably hanging out for, I don't know, 6 months before she brought me over to her house and said, I want you to watch this video clip. It's only 15 minutes.
Okay.
Let me just explain.
Go ahead.
Um, I'd been hanging out with Corinne. I had Thanksgiving dinner with her, talk about non-duality, which I knew nothing about. Now, a year later,
A year later, summer of 2014, Corinne invited me to watch a video of a teacher she'd been following. The talk lasted only 15 minutes, but delivered exactly what I needed to hear, offering a non-dual perspective that revealed reality in a radically new light. Here's the quote from the video. If you perceive a problem, observe your actual experience here now. What is actually occurring? You define your problem into existence as well as their hoped for solutions. Leave the realm of the describable. It doesn't exist. Thought interpretations about the problem will arise and continue. However, focusing on the actual experience of now will transcend thought. What is here now is more relevant than you think. This actual present condition is absolutely inconceivable. The teacher's name was Peter Brown. So that was your introduction to Peter Brown. And things went on from there. And then we get to okay, one of the sections of the book called How Seeking Ends. Because as long as seeking is going on, well, then the seeker is not so-called there yet because you're still looking for that which you don't think you have, or somebody's gonna give it to you, or you're gonna find it someplace else. But seeking has to end in order for you or me or anyone, the seeker, to relax and be comfortable with who they already are, not who they think they want to be or who they think they are or whatever, blah, blah, blah. All these
right,
thoughts.
but let me just interrupt.
Go ahead.
Even the notion seeking has to end. Nothing has to happen. Everything is happening the way it's happening. What occurs is seeing what it really is. It's all about the noticing.
Okay.
So nobody ends anything, nobody stops anything. And that's a really important point that this later part of my book will describe, because we think we have to do all these things.
True.
What did you find?
What you actually are is this that is here, this presence, this field of awareness, this bubble of experiencing. And now here's a quote from Peter. The difference is that you know you're playing the role now rather than believing you are the role. I didn't comprehend Peter's paradox. Emptiness is fullness, but something in me was deeply touched. So even though you encounter Peter, some of the things he's saying is quite like not quite clear to you.
Oh, let me just add to that. I mean, in the beginning, well, that first paragraph that you read, when I watched that clip, you know, I didn't understand it. But when I listened to Peter in the very beginning and the first time I went to one of his weekend workshops, something touched my heart. You know, I couldn't understand it, but something touched my heart. I felt the truth of his words. And it, you know, it was just like something in my being was ready for it. And the fact that he was able to say everything that we think is something is actually a seeming, like this seems to be a chair, this seems to be a table, this seems to be whatever. If we can just acknowledge that it's a seeming and not actual, that really paved the way for me to not have to just swallow something because a spiritual teacher was saying it. And that's what I now needed to believe. I needed to drop my other beliefs and now start to believe this. That would not work for me. I really wanted to, if I couldn't understand, I just wanted to hold it as a puzzle piece and wait for, how do I say, just the being to have that experience so that I can know what I'm hearing.
And this goes right into the next quote I have here. There is no hierarchy of better or not as good. Everything simply is. Again, without the labeling, without the, trying to figure out what this is or anything. This is like, this is. So that's kind of what the Peter is all about.
So does it transcend the mind and sensation and feeling?
Well, what is it? And it sounds like you're wanting to have something happen. There's simply presence right here, experiencing. So see what's here, because the question puts you in your head. See what's here and what is your felt sense right here, right now. You notice what we call sound. You notice what we call sensation. Maybe there's some thought, what we call thoughts. Just notice the whole panoply flowing through in every moment. You're not any one of those things. It's experiencing, flowing with seamlessly. And you can just sit in your stillness, as you like to call it, and notice this. It's noticing. One of the things that was of immense value for me is the discovery and realization that there is no one true perspective, because I was really all about correcting people and telling people, what was real. That was a big shift. It doesn't matter. It does not matter, because there is no one true perspective. Just look around and see everything is changing all the time. And, people are looking at what you call an elephant. Where are they looking? Oh, well, they're looking at the butt. Oh, no, they're looking at the trunk. Who can say? You see what I'm
Right.
saying?
So, yes, I do. And I think the thing is that everything that exists, from the tiniest atom quark to the largest thing is totally unique in creation. Everybody, everything is unique. Everybody, everything is having their own individual experience. There's not a rule for everybody to follow. What I'm experiencing right now is totally outside the purview of your experience. It's just my experience.
That's all you can know. You can only know your experience. I can only know my experience. If I imagine that there's an outside world, that's in my imagination.
You know, one thing that happened when we were at the center is there was a process. You do this.
Could we kind of stay with what we're talking about the book?
Yeah, we
Because
are. I'm
okay.
just this is part of it. When we were at the center, we had a process. We do this, 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 and this in order to attain this. What you're saying now is that
I see. I apologize.
Yeah, there is no process. There is nothing, no steps that you have to take to attain anything. It's just the experience. Nothing
Because
more, nothing less.
There's no attaining. There's nothing to attain, because the attaining would be separate from experiencing. You know, it's a future idea. You know, the whole notion of attaining or hope for it's all imaginary. We just don't realize how the mind spins these elaborate stories about reality that, we've all been taught since we were toddlers and learning language. If we could see how toddlers are and the naturalness and the freedom they are, we could see what our true potential is, because that's what it was, and it's still here, but we've just got all these coverings, all of these paper mache coverings, and it's, I mean, I just feel so grateful that all these experiences, unfolded to be able to see through all of the programming. And that's really what my whole book details. The experiences of all the unfolding of the programming that leaves you just with what's essential, which is this moment without all the overlays.
Good answer. That's what I was looking for. Gary?
Thank you so much.
And this brings us to the perfect end of this conversation and the end of the book. Let me read, because this sums up just what we've been saying, especially in the last few minutes. So this is the end of the book. This is Nancy now. Even when thought insists on complicating things, I'm going to intersperse a little editorial. All right. Even when thought insists on complicating things, like, oh, I need to do this, this, and this in order to get to some imaginary place. This is just thought. Okay. Even when thought insists on complicating things, regardless of how experience unfolds, there is nothing to achieve or release, and no right way to feel or behave. The simplicity of being, capital B, is always present and accessible. Each individual's unfolding is unique. I encourage readers to explore direct experience with an open heart, recognizing both the simplicity of awareness and the wisdom of discernment. Non-dual awareness is not a path or a process of becoming, but recognizing what is already present in every moment. That's the essence of the end of the book. And it's the essence of, the whole thing, as far as, the Peter Brown thing goes, but also, that was Nancy's direct experience. And mine as well. I have to out myself. Mine as well. I'm going to read that last sentence again. Non-dual.
I wonder if you could find In that ending, where I said, I felt like I was home, it was listening to one of Peter's last talks. And I said, I could have a name.
Oh, here it is. Here it is. 4 months after Mom's passing, a cool breeze wafted in my window on a Saturday morning in mid-May 2022, as I joined Peter's video conference. The deep connection that flowed through me from his stirring message signaled I was home. I turned into Peter's talks as I would a I tuned in, sorry, to Peter's talks as I would a transcendent symphony. His pointers were like poetry and touched my heart, revealing the profound beauty of truth. And here's Peter's talking in your quoting. This actuality present in your experience is a miracle. How is it here? It includes all detail, the truth of this presence. And you are this, is. It's undeniable. Feeling this fact is the highest prayer. Feeling the oneness of this being, this radiant presence that shines forth with all the apparent complexities, your being. No process, just this instant. You always feel it. This that is here. There is nothing else to know. This richness, drink deeply of its presence. You being what you are is completeness, wholeness. Notice the presence of being, of the experiential field in the way that it is. The isness of experience already here, fully complete, and nothing more to be done.
And can you see somewhere in there, I write something about, I can write about the fucked upness of the world and also be home.
Oh, here it is. Here it is. I found it. I found it.
Oh,
Okay,
you're wonderful.
I am. Okay. It doesn't have to look any particular way.
Right.
This presence. Reality is the movement of presence experiencing itself in all forms. I can still write a poem expressing feelings towards the world's cruelty and fucked upness while holding the recognition that existence looks however it looks. Mystery beyond the mind's comprehension. Without the mental framework that divides experience into opposites, pleasant and unpleasant, what's here is the immediacy of experience, always simply this, who we truly are. Nancy D. Bennett, Opening to the Mystery, great book. I recommend it. And read my review on Amazon. You're going to love it.
No, this was great. I I love your theatrics. And Stefan, your questions were really just essential to kind of round things out.
Thank you also, Nancy. I think we had a wonderful experience.
It was just a delight. My first time, and you guys made it really beautiful. Thank you so much.
It was delightful, but I'm not going to label it.
Yeah.
But that's my no. It was delightful. Yeah, it was great. It was fun. I think it was insightful, and also what I love. This is my own personal thing. Anything that kind of brings me back in touch with the pure non-dual teaching, which is my shtick, 100% shtick. So I always get charged up by that.
Thank you so much, guys.
Okay, thanks, guys.